Welcome. Today we're getting into something pretty common, but maybe surprisingly complex. Eggs.
That's right. Forget just breakfast. We're looking at eggs as, well, functional foods. Things that do more than just fill you up.
Yeah, we've got this collection of research, eggs as functional foods and nutraceuticals for human health. Our mission really is to pull out the key stuff, the surprising facts you might not know.
Exactly. We want to show why eggs are kind of a powerhouse. Looking at research from places like the Banff Egg Symposia, covering everything from nutrition to disease prevention.
Okay, let's crack on. Cholesterol, that's the big one everyone remembers, right? For years, it was like, don't eat too many eggs.
Oh, absolutely. That was the dominant message, stemming from their cholesterol content.
But that thinking has changed a bit, hasn't it?
It really has. The evidence questioning that old, strict 300 milligram a day limit for healthy people started building up quite a while ago, around 2010 even.
And was the U.S. kind of unique in sticking to that so hard?
Yeah, at the time, the U.S. guidelines were, let's say, more cautious about dietary cholesterol than many other places.
Huh. So the science just kept pointing away from that strict limit.
Increasingly, yes. Research has really undermined the idea that healthy people need to be super restrictive about the cholesterol they get from food like eggs. Nutrition science evolves, For most healthy folks, the fear about eggs significantly harming heart health just due to their cholesterol content doesn't seem to hold up. So, takeaway. If you're healthy, don't sweat the cholesterol in eggs too much.
Okay, good to know. Now, something else, a lot of people are interested in weight management. Feeling full, right? Do eggs help with that?
They absolutely can. There's good evidence showing eggs can suppress appetite. They seem to decrease plasma ghrelin levels.
Well, that's the I'm hungry hormone, yeah.
That's the one. The gremlin telling your brain to eat.
So how do eggs shut it up? Is there specific research?
There was this interesting randomized study. They took men aged 20 to 70, gave them either an egg breakfast or a bagel breakfast. Same calories in both.
Okay, egg versus bagel. The breakfast battle, what happened?
Well, the guys who ate the eggs reported feeling much less hungry afterwards. They used these visual scales to measure it.
Okay, felt fuller, but did they actually eat less?
Yes, and this is key. They ate fewer calories at the next meal, and actually fewer calories over the entire next 24 hours compared to when they had the bagels.
Wow, that's a real difference over a whole day.
It is significant. And the research has linked this to lower levels of blood glucose, insulin, and importantly, ghrelin after the egg breakfast. Suggests the protein plays a big role in that satiety signal.
Protein is known for that.
And it's not just that one study. Another researcher, van der Waal, also found people felt more satisfied after an egg breakfast compared to a non-egg.
So if you're trying to manage your energy intake, maybe watch calories. Starting with eggs could be smart. Takeaway time.
Yeah. Year 2025 actionable takeaway. Consider eggs for breakfast if you want to feel fuller, longer, and potentially reduce your overall calorie intake naturally.
You mentioned gut-brain axis earlier, too. Eggs influence those signals.
Seems like it. That communication between your gut and brain is crucial for appetite control. And foods like eggs can definitely nudge those signals towards feeling satisfied.
And it wasn't just those men in the study, right? The source mentioned other groups.
Correct. Studies with obese women showed similar effects, greater fullness, reduced calorie intake for up to 36 hours after an egg breakfast compared to a bagel.
36 hours? That's impressive.
It is. And in Chinese adolescents, swapping steamed bread for eggs at breakfast meant they ate less at lunch, felt more satisfied, and had higher levels of those appetite-suppressing hormones, PYY and GLP-1, and lower ghrelin.
So it seems pretty consistent across different people. Was there a longer study, too?
Yep, a 4-week study. Young adults eating 2 eggs for breakfast reported greater satiety compared to having oatmeal, again linked to lower ghrelin. The evidence for satiety is quite strong.
Okay, compelling stuff for weight management. Let's pivot back to the heart. Given that whole cholesterol history, what's the newer picture for cardiovascular health overall?
Right, it's a bit more nuanced here. Our source looks at several studies. One involved people on a weight loss diet eating 2 eggs a day for about 3 months.
And did their heart markers go haywire?
Nope. No significant difference in their body weight loss, total cholesterol, HDL, the good kind, triglycerides, or LDL particle characteristics compared to the group that didn't eat eggs.
So in that context, losing weight eggs didn't seem harmful for those markers.
That was the finding there. Then there was another study with people either at risk for heart disease or who had type 2 diabetes, and they were on a carb-restricted diet. They had 3 liquid eggs a day for 12 weeks.
So what happened with them? Any inflammation changes?
They did see some reductions in a couple of inflammatory markers like TNF-alpha and SAA in the egg group, But interestingly, no significant difference between them and the egg substitute group for other common markers like CRP or IL-6.
So maybe some subtle anti-inflammatory effects, but not a huge overall shift compared to the control.
That seems to be the case in that study. It suggests the overall diet pattern really matters. Year 2025 actionable takeaway. The impact of eggs on heart health markers isn't always straightforward. It likely depends on your overall diet and individual health status. Don't assume they're automatically bad or good in isolation.
Right. Context is key. Was there anything else on inflammation?
There was a smaller study just in type 2 diabetics. One egg a day actually reduced plasma, TNF-alpha, that inflammatory marker, and showed a trend towards lowering IL-6 too. So results can vary.
Okay. Now, something called TMAO keeps popping up in relation to heart health. What's the egg connection?
TMAO. Trimethylamine N oxide. It's produced by our gut bacteria when they break down certain compounds, including choline and phosphatidylcholine, which eggs are
And high
rich in.
TMAO is potentially bad for the heart.
Some research suggests a link between higher TMAO levels and increased cardiovascular risk. So, because eggs contain the precursors, scientists are actively studying how eating eggs actually affects TMAO levels in people. It's an area the source highlights as
Got
under
it.
review.
So TBD on the TMAO front. Something to watch. Let's switch to the brain. This surprised me, eggs, and thinking better.
It's really fascinating. Eggs are packed with lutein. We usually hear about lutein for eye health, right?
Carrots, leafy greens, and eggs.
And eggs. And this lutein seems to have like vitamin-like effects beyond the eyes. It actually accumulates preferentially in the retina, yes, but also in the brain.
Oh, so it's actually getting into our brain tissue. What does it do there?
Studies suggest it's linked to better cognitive function. In young adults, higher lutein intake correlated with faster visual processing speed.
Thinking.
Kind of, yeah. And when combined with zeaxanthin, another carotenoid in eggs, it's been linked to better spatial memory, reasoning, and attention. One study even pointed towards better cognitive control.
Okay, so eating eggs might genuinely help keep your brain sharp. That's a pretty good takeaway.
Yeah, a year 2025 actionable takeaway. Don't just think eyes when you hear lutein. Eggs provide this brain-boosting nutrient too, potentially enhancing memory and processing speed.
It's lutein, and it's not, right? Choline is a big one in eggs too.
Huge. Eggs are one of the best dietary sources of choline. Our bodies need choline to make acetylcholine,
which is a neurotransmitter.
Exactly. Crucial for memory, muscle control, all sorts of neurological functions. Plus, choline is vital for fetal brain development during pregnancy.
So important for moms to be.
Definitely. And research shows that people who regularly eat eggs are just more likely to get enough choline in their diet
And
overall.
does getting enough choline during pregnancy actually make a difference for the baby's brain?
There's research suggesting it does. Higher maternal choline intake, especially later in pregnancy, has been linked to faster information processing speed in infants. It sets a foundation.
Mind blown. Eggs are way more complex than I gave them credit for. Okay, let's zoom in on that powerhouse of nutrients idea. What makes the protein so special?
Well, first off, it's a complete protein, meaning it has all 9 essential amino acids, the ones your body can't make itself. And they're highly bioavailable.
Meaning easy for our bodies to use.
Exactly. Egg protein has historically been the gold standard, the reference point for measuring the quality of other proteins.
Wow. And the amino acid mix is good for us.
It's remarkably similar to the amino acid profile of human muscle protein, actually. And it's rich in leucine, about 9% of the protein.
Leucine, that's important for muscles.
Very important. Leucine acts like a switch, helping to trigger muscle protein synthesis. So eggs provide the building blocks and help kickstart the building process.
Beyond protein, what about the vitamins and minerals list? Give us the highlights.
Oh, it's long. In about 2 large hard-boiled eggs, you're getting good amounts of B vitamins like riboflavin, B12, folate, pantothenic acid, plus vitamin A, D, E, K. Minerals like selenium, phosphorus, iron, zinc.
Okay, it's a lot.
It really is. And don't forget the choline we just talked about and those carotenoids, lutein and zeaxanthin. It's incredibly nutrient
Your
dense.
2025 actionable takeaway then seems obvious.
Right. Think of eggs as nature's multivitamin, an affordable, accessible way to get a wide range of essential nutrients.
Okay, back to lutein and zeaxanthin. We know they're good for the brain now, but their main job is eye health, right? Especially the yolk.
Yes, the yolk is where they concentrate. It's very specific how carotenoids accumulate there, favoring lutein and zeaxanthin.
Can boost those levels.
You can. By changing the hen's diet, you can significantly increase the amount of lutein and zeaxanthin in the eggs
Designer
they lay.
eggs for eye health.
Sort of. And crucially, the lutein and zeaxanthin you get from egg yolks are much more bioavailable, easier for your body to absorb than from most plant sources.
So important for vision again.
They accumulate in the macula, the central part of your retina. They act like internal sunglasses, filtering out damaging blue light. Studies like ARIDS have really shown how vital nutrition, including these carotenoids, is for preventing age-related
So
eye
if you're
issues.
concerned about eye health, especially as you age, eggs seem like a good bet.
For people maybe not getting enough or who have low macular pigment levels, yes. Year 2025 actionable takeaway. Eating eggs, especially the yolks, is a very effective way to boost your intake of highly bioavailable lutein and zeaxanthin to support
Makes
long-term
sense.
eye health.
Okay, shifting again. Bone health, not the first thing I associate with it.
Maybe not directly, but there are connections. Our bones are constantly remodeling. Osteoblasts build bone, osteoclasts break it down. Eggshells obviously are mostly
So shell
calcium
powder could be a calcium source.
Can be, yeah. But even within the egg white and yolk, there are bioactive proteins that show potential in lab studies.
Like,
In the white, there's ovalbumin and ovotransferrin. In vitro studies suggest ovalbumin can help support the growth of those bone-building osteoblasts. Ovotransferrin might also stimulate them. The yolk has phosphatin. It's really good at binding calcium. Research suggests it might encourage osteoblast differentiation and also slow down the osteoclasts, the bone breakdown
potentially
cells.
tipping the balance towards bone building.
That's the idea. There's ongoing research into phosphatin fragments called phosphopeptides as a way to potentially improve bone health and maybe help prevent
Interesting.
osteoporosis.
What about the carotenoids and bone health?
No direct evidence cited here linking egg carotenoid intake specifically to bone health, but given their antioxidant properties and bioavailability, maybe an indirect role. It's less established.
Year 2025, actionable takeaway for bones.
While it's not the primary benefit people think of, components in eggs, shell calcium, specific proteins, show promise in supporting bone health.
Got
It's an
it.
emerging
Let's
area.
talk antioxidants. We hear that word a lot. How do eggs stack up?
Pretty well, actually. We've got a whole team of antioxidants: vitamin E, folate, selenium, iodine, those carotenoids, lutein, and zeaxanthin again. And even some proteins like ovotransferrin and phosphatin have antioxidant
So they help
activity.
fight off, what is it, free radical damage?
Exactly. Free radicals are unstable molecules that can damage cells, contributing to aging and disease. Antioxidants neutralize them. Lutein, for instance, has shown protective effects against early atherosclerosis in animal models, likely through its antioxidant
And it's not just the
action.
whole vitamins and minerals, right? Protein fragments again.
Yes, through enzymatic hydrolysis, basically. Using enzymes to chop up the proteins, you can get smaller peptides from both the white and yolk that have significant antioxidant power in lab tests. Specific sequences like
And you can
alahizlines
boost
showed
this
activity.
too. Yeah.
Right. Fortifying hen feed with antioxidants like vitamin E means the eggs themselves become richer in those antioxidants. So, year 2025 actionable takeaway: eggs contribute a diverse mix of antioxidants to your diet, helping protect your body at a cellular level.
Inflammation. Seems like it's linked to everything these days. Can eggs help cool things down?
There's potential there. Egg yolk is a source of glycerophospholipids, including phosphatidylcholine, which gives us choline. But specifically for inflammation, the yolk contains something called anti-secretory factor, or
Anti-secretory
AF.
factor. What does that do?
Studies, including some in humans with inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, suggest AF can reduce inflammation and improve symptoms.
Definitely.
That's quite
Anything else in
promising.
the egg with anti-inflammatory potential?
Lab studies suggest, yes, peptides derived from egg white proteins like ovalbumin and some yolk proteins like livitins and phosphatin peptides have shown
So
anti-inflammatory activity
multiple
in vitro.
components might be working together.
It seems plausible. Year 2025, actionable takeaway. While not a magic bullet, compounds in both egg yolk and white may contribute anti-inflammatory effects.
Wow. Okay. From inflammation to fighting microbes and viruses, that seems like a leap.
It does. But egg white, especially, is designed by nature to protect the yolk, right? So it's loaded with antimicrobial proteins. Lysozyme is a famous one. It breaks down bacterial cell walls.
What else?
Ovotransferrin binds iron, which bacteria need to grow. There's also ovoflavoprotein, avidin, ovomucoid. They all have different antimicrobial tricks.
Oh, what about viruses?
Some egg white proteins, like ovomucin and ovotransferrin, show antiviral activity too. But the really exciting stuff is arguably in the yolk. IgY,
like immune
antibody.
system antibodies.
Exactly. Chickens produce these antibodies, IgY, and deposit them in the yolk. And research shows these IgY antibodies can be effective against rotavirus, influenza A and B,
Hold on.
even
So
the
the
SARS
antibodies in the
coronavirus.
egg yolk could help fight off viruses.
That's the potential being explored. Using IgY is seen as possibly a safe, cost-effective way to help manage outbreaks of things like the flu. Year 2025, actionable takeaway. Eggs contain natural antimicrobial and antiviral components, with IgY antibodies in the yolk showing particular
This
for
IgY
fighting
thing sounds
infections.
really powerful. The source mentioned lots of other potential uses beyond just like fighting the flu.
Oh yeah, it's a huge area of research
Mm.
because you can basically immunize hens against a specific target, and they'll produce IgY against it in their eggs.
For what kinds of
These can
things?
then be extracted. Diagnostics, for one. IgY is used in some lab tests like blood typing, sometimes with fewer issues than mammalian antibodies, but therapeutics are where it gets really interesting.
Like what?
Preventing organ rejection and xenotransplants, potentially. Preventing infant diarrhea using anti-rotavirus IgY. Fighting cavities with antidental carries IgY that worked in rats.
Wow. Keep going.
Anti-P. aeruginosa IgY for cystic fibrosis patients. Anti-TNF-alpha IgY for treating colitis in animal models. Even anti-lipase IgY to potentially block fat digestion as an
Anti-obesity
anti-obesity
antibodies
strategy.
from eggs.
That's the concept they tested in mice. And anti-gliadin IgY for celiac disease, trying to block gluten absorption and inflammation. Even anti-prion IgY for
This
detecting
is
things like
incredible.
mad cow disease.
It sounds like IgY could be a whole platform for functional foods or therapies.
That's exactly the potential. Your 2025 actionable takeaway. Egg-derived IgY antibodies represent a versatile and promising technology with applications spanning diagnostics, infection prevention, and managing chronic inflammatory and metabolic
Mind
conditions.
officially blown by IgY. So we've covered eating the egg. What about the parts we usually throw away? The shell and that membrane inside.
They're not waste. The eggshell, mostly calcium carbonate, has industrial uses construction, cleaning up
Resourceful.
pollutants.
And the
as a
membrane,
catalyst.
that thin skin.
Eggshell membrane, or ESM, is also getting a lot of attention. It's used in wound healing
Like
dressings, joint
glucosamine?
health supplements.
Joint-
Similar idea, yeah. Contains collagen, hyaluronic acid, stuff like that. ESM is also being used for advanced separation and absorption, pulling out metals, nanoparticles, even gases, plus roles in biosensors and chemical
Year
processes.
2025, actionable takeaway. Don't underestimate the egg's packaging. The shell and membrane have valuable applications in industry, health, and technology, making the entire egg incredibly resourceful.
Amazing. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground.
I think the main point is that eggs are far more than just simple food. They are nutrient-dense powerhouses.
Right, packed with high-quality protein, essential vitamins, minerals, and these bioactive compounds like lutein, choline, antioxidants.
Potential benefits for weight management, brain health, eye health, maybe even bone health, plus anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial effects.
Not to mention the incredible potential of IgY antibodies and the surprising uses for the shell and membrane.
It truly
it's
is.
really a complete
supported by a
package.
growing body of research.
So thinking about all this huge range of benefits from something so accessible, frankly, affordable.
Well, how can we make sure we're taking full advantage, both in our own diets, maybe thinking beyond just breakfast, but also exploring all these other applications, the IgY, the byproducts for, a healthier future overall.
That's the provocative thought, isn't it? There's so much potential locked inside the humble egg, and the science is still uncovering more.
Mhm.
It definitely warrants ongoing curiosity and exploration.